Welcome, everybody, to yet another goddamn horror podcast. I am one of your hosts. I am Ryan Danley, coming to you from kind of overclassed, muggy, sort of like it's the time of year in Portland, Oregon, where it's a little cool at like a little cool in the morning, and then gets like muggy in 85. And here's a question: why is a September 85 different from a August 85?
It's
I
not
can't.
supposed to be 85.
Well,
Yeah, that's why.
but it's different. It just feels different. I don't know. I don't know. Like
we
maybe
had
like
we had that nice day like one day this week in New York, and it's back to 85, 90, and it sucks. It's so hot all the time. It's September. I'm
right.
tired of it.
Yeah,
That's my
unnecessary.
weather report from Brooklyn.
Yeah, I'm with Graham on that one. It's gross.
Yeah, it's still gross. How the New York City rats do?
Sweating.
Fantastic. Yeah,
They're
they love the
sweating.
sweat. They love the
Yeah.
heat.
Do you think the rats care about the heat?
No, they live in a subway. It's always hot there.
Right.
Like,
I just wonder if they're like, you know what? Like maybe it'd be easier if we'd like moved to like beautiful New England. You know, like where it's a little
dude, I
like
do not want to meet New Hampshire rats. Like, I don't want to meet, I don't want to meet Stephen King book Maine rats. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to meet them.
well, I mean, we can talk about this all day long, and we often do. But do we want to introduce Graham? Do you want to
We
introduce
want to
our?
talk to we want to talk to our guest. Our guest today is Canadian filmmaker Chantelle Han, who just is I just saw Peppergrass on the Popcorn Frights, and it was fantastic. Chantal, thank you so much for being here. How are you today?
I'm well. Thank you guys so much for having me, you goddamn horror guys. We're talking about with all the weather. It's 25 degrees Celsius here, so there's just something that just isn't
That
quite.
sounds awesome.
Yeah, yeah. So we have no I don't know how much time you've spent in the States, but they don't teach us anything. Like I know about cheeseburgers. For some reason, we know about what kind of shoes they wear in Holland. And then guns. So that's pretty much all we know here. So like so your Celsius thing, that's a little confusing for us.
I don't know what
I,
that is in Fahrenheit. Now, you know what? That makes me just think my entire school is a failure. Like
isn't
all
it,
of it.
it's
I have no idea.
it's
Like,
embarrassing. It's in, like
yeah,
we like I can't even like do the metric change in my head. Like, you know, anyway,
no,
what's that? Is it like 70 degrees? 70
I think
degrees?
it's like 70 degrees. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
By
That
the way,
sounds
I pulled
awesome.
that I pulled that completely out of my ass. I have no idea. I have none.
Well, it didn't. So, all right, let's get back to the movie.
Okay.
This weather nonsense. So yeah, it was written by Stephen Garbus and Philip Irwin, I believe. Is that
yes.
correct? Okay,
Mhm.
and then it was directed by you and Stephen, and Grant Cooper was the cinematographer. So from what I gathered, it's a pretty small cast with outside of you and Charles, and it's basically about two restaurateurs who go out to an old veteran's secluded cabin to try to finagle some truffles, and
Yeah,
things kind of go sideways.
just like every other week. Um, yeah, so it just sort of speaks to the desperation of pandemic times, especially that kind of
Right.
it was really ugly. We didn't quite know what was going on, and folks didn't know what they were going to do about their livelihoods and their businesses, especially ones that relied on seeing people in close quarters and mouths being open, eating and drinking and all of that. So this was their brilliant plan to try and recoup some funds. And part of why this story was created was actually that we were meant to film a totally different film. But when the
Oh,
pandemic hit, some of our funding fell through, a lot of interior locations that we couldn't safely film in. So Steven just in a matter of a couple months wrote this script to accommodate a really small cast that shot outside with a bare bones crew, and that's how Peppergrass was born.
I love the
so
I love
cool.
yeah, I love this part of like the pandemic because we ended up with like this odd array of like of great movies kind of based on like the availability, and it just kind of shows that like human spirit of like we got to create art in this situation. We can't stop doing it. I mean honestly, this podcast is birthed from Jonas and I being stand-up comics, and Graham and I being friends and horror fans, like, and just having like just have to stop everything and do things. So it's really cool to see like like all of these great projects kind of coming out of this, and
Yeah, there's so much resourcefulness that was born out of this situation, and
right.
this is what we came up with, and it's one of my favorite projects ever. I mean, it wasn't the most comfortable of shoots, certainly, as you can
Right.
see from some of the.
Yeah, it was described as, I think, like Northern Gothic, and I'm not sure exactly what that means, but cold and dark is pretty much
I
what
love that term though. That's a great term.
it is. It really is. So yeah, so it was filmed during a pandemic, but one of the things I really loved about it is that it's referenced in the movie, but it didn't feel like shoehorned in. It didn't even feel completely necessary to the events that happened. It treated the pandemic sort of like how I felt when I saw it at the time, and I think there are only a couple movies I think that really got the pandemic, or at least used it well. I don't know. And Host was one of them, the Shutter movie, where it was, all done on a Zoom call, and it was because that's all they could do, and it was super cool. And I just loved that it was born out of that. And then Bo Burnham's Inside, I think, captured a real sense of the pandemic that. But right. This was the first time I had seen something that referenced it, but didn't. It wasn't the whole point.
Yeah, not at all. It was just sort of the water we were swimming in. We
exactly. I love that.
On it. It's just that's the environment. These are the circumstances. And along with trying to save your business, she's pregnant, so the stakes are high in that way.
Yep.
She kind of knows the guy that they might get the truffle from, but it's been a really long time. She doesn't know how good her graces are anymore with that guy. And, as you see, sometimes things go awry, and then you have to deal with those new set of circumstances.
Yeah.
Northern Gothics, am I right?
Yep. You win. You win the podcast.
Also, by the way, anybody that has ever cooked like professionally at all or like in a kitchen knows how sought after and expensive truffles can actually be. Like, it's wild. Like, I've seen truffles that are not even huge, that are just like, I'm talking like small, like, like yay big, and we're talking that's $1,000 just right there, just for a nice truffle. It's not even a great truffle. Like,
well, the truffles in the movie are so crazy.
Yeah. I mean, your listeners can't see this, but it's like two of my fists balled together with some like space in between. That's how big our truffle was. And it's a white truffle, which is the most valuable.
That's an expensive truffle.
$10,000 a kilo for that kind of truffle.
So, oddly, I know how much kilos are. That's a weird thing.
You look in produce.
But, no, that's self-taught. You know what I mean? Like, you figure out what.
Incredible.
But I actually, Jonas and Chantelle and Graham, I actually was a fine dining chef for a stretch of time in my life when I was younger, and I have actually, oddly enough, we had a truffle risotto at a place that I worked in Denver, and the chef would go out to the table and they have these little truffle cutters that have like
little shavers,
shaver onto it, and I have signed in for them and had the bag in one hand and been signing in $1,400 with my other hand. And there's very little like and so I actually kind of like this idea that between this movie and Pig, like they are sort of like recognizing that like no matter what you put value to in this world, whether it's drugs or avocados or truffles or anything like that, that there is going to be a market and of extremeness around it, and there's a potential for danger. I mean, like as I now sell produce for a living, and if people had any idea the scary side of the avocado industry. They
Oh
would.
my God. Do not tell me about an avocado mafia. Don't you fucking do that here.
I mean,
There is one. I'm sure there is one.
it's not a mafia, it's a cartel, and it's a real thing, and it's and it's just like, and that's why, I mean, that's why if you buy an avocado in California where they grow them, and you buy them in any part of it, they're all the same price, because those
Right.
the thing is all like, so I kind of like this idea of that we're kind of like showing like and taking something interesting like a truffle, which is like such a fabulous.
I mean, Steven got the idea talking to his botanist friend, and he was just stressing how valuable these things can be. So, at a glance, truffle mushroom ice seems like something to scoff at, but as you know, it is life and death, people.
I mean, I'm just gonna talk about this a little bit more because this is something I know a lot about, but like chanterelle mushrooms, and all those. I mean, people, they shoot each other's dogs because they all hunt for it and stuff like that. There's like a really like there's really an underground like, oh, these are where we pick them, and we've been picking them every year. And if somebody comes and picks them, because at the end of the day, it's all we all laugh and we're like, what? It's like these fancy mushrooms, and they're like, no, to them, it's just.
Oh, it's serious. It's like gold in your backyard.
Exactly.
I mean, it's their livelihood. Yeah.
Yeah. And so like, it gets weird out there. So I really, like, on a personal level, enjoy this topic in movies, because there is there is this undercurrent of like violence and crime and warfare going on over like fancy schmancy things,
fancy fungus.
Fancy fungus. But so that's a great, so hats off to going after that. And that truffle in that movie, the second I saw it in the trailer, I was like, I want that truffle. You know what I mean? Like, I'm down. I am down for whatever it takes to get that truffle.
So I will fight for that.
Preaching to the choir.
Yeah. By the way, just real quick, since Graham's the only one that's seen this, so I will chime in just on the trailer aspect of it. The trailer is fantastic. So I don't know who it was that was responsible for putting the trailer together, editing it together, but like tonally, it's a fantastic trailer. So like, I'm very jealous that Graham has seen the movie and that I haven't, just based solely off the trailer. So well done.
I love it too. I didn't have anything to do with cutting the trailer, but Steven, my co-director, and Grant, our cinematographer, they worked really hard. I think just the music and all the beats, it's perfect. I mean, the fact that you guys have only seen the trailer is, first of all, shame on you. And that my Graham is my favorite.
Well, yes. Graham got excited about the movie, but unfortunately, it's not available to us yet. So we will see it. But we want to promote it anyways, because surprisingly we trust Graham, in his opinion on stuff. And you look at him and you're like, why would anybody trust? But but he comes up good half the time. So at least 38% of the time. So
you will be able to see it soon in the States.
Cool.
Around the end of the year, we're going to have an announcement pretty soon.
Ooh, so nice.
Awesome.
That's my gift.
Awesome.
Graham, you saw it on Popcorn Flicks, right? Or
I did. Popcorn Frights.
Popcorn Frights
Festival. Yeah, it's one of my favorite festivals. Actually, I've seen so many great movies, and Peppergrass was probably my favorite one. There was one other one that was right up there with it, and it was Pussy Cake, but it was such a completely different movie. Peppergrass just had this feel to it that hit me and my wife Molly. Loved it, and we really loved the pig. The pig in it was so cool. Like that. How was that working with a pig? Like, because that's a giant pig, and they can get pretty unruly.
Hector was 900 pounds. It probably came up to at least my waist. Like, he was massive. We picked him because he was the most menacing based on all the photos. And then he was set with his, 3 to 4 handlers at any one time in his special truck because he's so heavy. And he did not listen to anyone. He was actually really lovely. He wasn't as scary and menacing as we'd hoped, but it's totally fine. And then we just kind of worked with the tone he was giving us, which, kind of affected the ending and things like that. But he was really something, quite a presence on set.
I like that. I know that um oh God, what's his name? Ari Aster said that working with Black Phillip was like the biggest mistake of his career. So I like when I hear successful stories of animals on set, because it does add a different thing to the element of the movie.
I actually
So,
I have a funny little side story on this as far as comedy goes, because like I'm gonna talk only about this because it relates to the pig situation. So when I was, yeah, it's already a fucking weird story, I know, but I've been doing comedy now for I think 12 years. It's been 12, 13 years almost. So I've done a lot of weird shows. I've done a lot of crazy shows. And in Brooklyn, I did a show at a person's birthday party that I did not realize was a traveling cocaine dealer. Wasn't aware of that when I showed up. They didn't tell me that when they pitched this show to me. But I show up there and it's a party for him and his friends and his roommates and stuff. There's about 5 people, all of them coked out of their mind. So I'm like, this show is going to be great. Awesome. So I sit down in this person's living room at their kitchen island to do this show. And then a giant pot-bellied pig just walks out of the bedroom, hops up onto the couch, and just sits there and watches the show. So I'm like, all right, I am in the middle of Brooklyn, and this was a place in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. I'm like, I am in the middle of Williamsburg, Brooklyn, in an apartment that is 5 times my cost of living. And I'm doing a show for 5 coked out people and a pot-bellied pig.
So you know exactly what it's like. Except your pig actually sounds more cooperative.
Dude, the pig at my show was awesome. He was great. The coked out people, not as much. But the pig, he was awesome. Also didn't listen to anybody, though. Like, aside from me, he was like, these jokes are cool. I'm going to listen to you. But these people, no.
Why should they? They're fine.
They're great.
The pig seemed more easier to work with than Charles Boylan as Morris.
You said it, Graham.
He was awesome, actually. He was one of my favorite, but he was really funny, and he brought like a great energy to the whole thing. It really balanced you out, I thought, incredibly well. And yeah, like
I totally agree.
And he was also in I was looking up his IMDb. He was in Becky, which is another one of a recent horror film that was really great. I don't know if you saw that. It was sort of like Kevin James played like a Nazi, and like this little and this little girl like played Home Alone with him, like a deadly version of it. It was great, actually.
Like there's a part in the trailer where he's looking across the campfire at Becky and he goes, listen, I don't want to hurt you, Becky. And then she picks up like a knife and twirls it in her finger. She goes, that's sad because I want to hurt you really, really bad. And then so she's like 8 years old and she's fighting Nazi Kevin James, which is just a weird sentence, but a cool concept.
And actually the funniest stuff he's ever done. So did I say that out loud? So Peppergrass looks, but you were also in one of my favorite shows. You were in Black Summer.
That's correct. It shoots in my hometown of Calgary, Alberta. Which is
awesome.
Which kind of makes sense. It kind of makes sense that it shoots in there because it kind of looks like that. You know what I mean? And so kind of snowy and some woods, and it definitely has a Canada vibe.
Yeah, totally. Midwest. They also shoot Fargo there. It's it doubles a lot of places, really, just depending on where you go. There's all sorts of locations.
Sure. Well, I love Black Summer. I think it's did you have to run a lot? Because I feel like Black Summer is sort of based on a lot of running. Like I love the show, but at some point, like I'm watching it and I realize with all the running that like me like not surviving in this, like in the Black Summer universe, I'm clearly the guy falling behind so y'all can. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm a big meal. You know what I mean? Like I'm a zombie snack, for sure. So I would definitely give you all some running time. But
if I'm running next to Ryan, you guys are gonna win. Like
yeah,
me and
exactly.
Ryan are the ones that are just we're
right.
fucked. We're gonna sit back there and just get devoured, and you
Uh,
guys
It
are
was
free.
so nice meeting you too.
I mean, I think actually, like Jonas and I running, we might get actually like hungry and stop and start eating the zombies themselves. You know what I mean? So let's come around and be like, those ribs
That's
look
the
all right.
tactic. Who's eating who? Am I right?
Right. This guy
That's the
looks
new
fresh.
zombie twist.
He looks like a fresh zombie.
Yeah.
I feel like I could get him. I don't want to upset my stomach and eat an old zombie, you know?
Right,
So
exactly.
I'm gonna get one of these fresh ones.
So that had to be a fun thing to be part of. You were in quite a few episodes. You were in this whole season, pretty much, right?
It was a ton of fun. And you know what? It shot right before Peppergrass. So
Oh,
my
cool.
availability made the ability to do Peppergrass like pretty hairy at a certain point. It was literally wrapping on the Friday and then needing to be on set by Monday.
Oh, wow.
In an odd way, it was like an incredible preparation for Peppergrass because we were running a ton. I was outside running quite a bit in Peppergrass too, but you know what it is? I should not have made the mistake of being like that keen actor who really wanted to like show how good I was at running, because then they did not activate my stunt double to do some of the running that they did.
They made you do.
They made me do it. And
they're like, oh, we can get a good shot.
I should have been a bit more like, oh, I'm tired, and they'd be like, no problem, we'll get Louisa in there. And like, no, go.
It's funny because Black Summer is based is like a spinoff or like another in the Z Nation universe, which is odd because Z Nation is like an entirely different show, and I think and I like them both for two different reasons. I like Z Nation because I'm kind of a fan of like just kind of, I don't want to say bad things, but just kind of like horror that's just like kind of silly and kind of fun, and sort of funny. But Black Summer is not like a fun show. There's not much humor in it at all. Was it interesting being on a set like that? Because like I think the vibe that it gives me is that it's like it's pretty rudimentary, pretty simple, like in what they're doing. Like there isn't a whole lot of like, I don't know. What does that look like comparatively to like something like Pepper Tree or something that's a little bit more like Peppergrass, excuse me, Peppergrass that's a little bit more established.
You know what? It's oddly not that different. There's just more of every department because everything was handheld in both Black Summer and Peppergrass. I mean, someone's chasing me with a camera at all times. Really long. There are long takes in Peppergrass as well, really long takes in Black Summer where you just do like one of those swipes, and that's how they would kind of edit to make it really look like they're just following people around. It's actually pretty similar. I mean, one just has more money and more cast and more people. That's why it's funny for me to say that Black Summer, like the bigger budget Netflix show, was actually really good prep for Peppergrass.
Sure. Yeah, no, right.
Also, to go back real quick to like the quick turnover from going from like Friday and Black Summer to Monday on Peppergrass, it just reminded me of one of my favorite stories, and I'm sure this probably happens a lot with other actors, but Everett McGill and Wendy Roby went from Twin Peaks to The People Under the Stairs like the next week, which I always thought was really cool. Like I just love hearing actors go from one thing to a completely opposite thing, like in a weekend. That's really cool to me.
It's a good problem to have, and thankfully it wasn't the biggest gear shift either. I mean, both kind of genre projects, not like a beauty queen bad pageant kind of role for me either, like really rugged, strong survivalist themes. Yeah, I had the best time. It's not a bad problem to have as an actor to be like, oh no, I'm just
That's very true.
I got too much work. Although I tell you, like the Jonas can say that I will complain when I'm not getting booked enough, and I will also complain if I have too much going on.
Oh yeah.
So
Well,
I can find I can find.
Actors are the best at complaining.
Yeah. I have a question for you on this because you did Black Summer and then you do Peppergrass, and they're both like within the genre, so like they're two very different projects, but they're both within the genre. Is this giving you like the itch to do more in the horror and thriller genre? Or is this something that's kind of activating a part of you that you weren't doing before?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I was just reflecting on this myself when I was talking to Graham over email, being like, I'm not really like your horror gal, quote unquote, in terms of I wasn't, I don't know that much more about the genre than a mainstream consumer, let's say.
Sure.
But recently, because of uh, Black Summer and Peppergrass, I'm so much more interested. And Peppergrass wasn't necessarily pitched as a horror film. I mean, we were sending it out to all sorts of festivals, like mainstream.
For sure, it doesn't have to be tagged with horror. I see it as horror, but I see most things as horror. So,
oh, Graham, you find the horror in everything. I love
that.
I do.
That's true.
I mean, there's been some debate about Peppergrass about whether it does count as horror. I mean, what is that thing? It's like 100 days of horror, or 99 days. There's like this challenge you watch a horror.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Folks were they were debating about whether Peppergrass falls in that category, and we know exactly what we are, and it is kind of in the eye of the beholder. Like, what do you find scary or horrific or thrilling? And
I say a good test if it's horror is if you switch the main protagonist, or excuse me, the main antagonist to a monster, does it become a horror movie? So, because I think that there's like this thing. So there's this thing where it's like, oh, it's people. It could just be like sorry, I'm getting information on my that if there's something on, like if there's that if it's a person, like it could just be stressful, something like that. But like if you switch the truffle guy to like a demon in the woods, would it all of a sudden become a horror movie? Do you know what I mean? Like, so I think that's a good.
I really like that thought. And you know what? He kind of is. You never really see his face in the film.
Yeah.
He barely utters a word.
That's sort of why I put it in horror, like, because it can sit in thriller or even a drama with some dark events. I don't know, but yeah, he's such a scary presence, and you never really get a full view of, like, he could be a demon, like, under all that. Like, like, it's pretty cool. And the horrors of war and stuff. He's a vet. Who knows what's happened to him in seclusion and everything. So, like, psychological horror, I think it completely falls into, especially where you and Morris are in the film, trying desperately to get out of a situation. And so I think that all lends itself to horror. But yeah,
we're
absolutely debatable.
We're many things at once. We're complicated.
Exactly.
That's good though. Well, and this is like, even just reading, like, if you just read the synopsis online, it kind of has a vibe almost like the movie Don't Breathe. So like it has a vibe of that, which is also considered like a horror / thriller. So it's got kind of this in between of the genre. And when I say vibes of that, it's just like, you're breaking into a war veteran's house to steal a thing and you fucked up. Like,
I said when I first saw it, I referenced it fairly cheaply, I think, as Don't Breathe meets Pig.
Which is great.
But yeah, but it's neither of those movies, but it on the surface, it kind of is.
Conceptually, sure, you could have it something that's conceptually similar to something, but
it's
also
nothing,
very much its own
like
property and nothing. Yeah. So it's just like I said, when you just read the synopsis, just the synopsis gives vibes of that, which is a good thing. Because like when Don't Breathe came out, that was one of those movies that people lost their mind over because it was, it just, the concept of it is very cool. So I think
do you know Don't Breathe, Chanel?
I don't. Can you fill me in a little?
So yeah, Don't Breathe was about a bunch of kids that break into a blind man's home to steal money.
He's a blind veteran.
a blind veteran. And he turns the tables on them, and it gets real fucked up. But it's super good.
Yeah,
But
and
yeah,
the
It's
main
like
draw.
horror Home Alone.
Yeah, it has
Yeah.
that vibe. And the main draw of that movie is the fact that he's blind. He has his house set up for a blind person, so he knows where everything is.
Right.
They don't. So it's like, so it's a cool concept. But then again, reading the synopsis of yours, it seems like it's like I said, it has a tinge of that, but it also seems very much like its own thing, which is, again, it's great because I think that's one of the cool things about horrors, especially, is that you can take, not even necessarily take, but you can get concepts from different, areas of the genre that blend together very, very well and make very original stories. Just
you can
over
take
and over again, which
exact
is awesome.
ideas, I think, and make a different movie around it. A full concept of a movie made by two different people will be two completely different
Right.
films. Anyway,
last year we premiered at Nightmares Film Festival in Columbus. That was our world premiere, and we were talking about stereotypes and tropes and originality in such a well-worn genre. Like you almost feel like, oh, all the stories have been told. But really, like you said, Graham, you can tell the same story and just flip the races of the characters. I was making this comparison between like being John Malkovich and Get Out. It's like in one way, it's sort of this drama with a bunch of white people, and then it's a fucking horror for Black people to have someone enter your body and your mind and inhabit your life.
Yeah,
totally.
Like, there's so many fun ways to flip it. Even the comparisons people make between Peppergrass and Pig, which I haven't seen, it's told from different points of view. I mean, in our story, I'm the lead, but I'm also the thief, and it follows my story. But I understand in Nicolas Cage's Pig, he's the victim, and they follow him.
Yeah.
Like
even
also, we were not aware of Pig during the making program.
No, I'll say this: even without seeing your movie, I can tell you they're two completely different movies. I can just by the trailer alone, I can tell you they are vastly different, both thematically and also tonally. They're very different.
And honestly, that like comic book poster, the movie poster is so cool.
Yes,
isn't it great?
Yeah,
this incredible artist Geneva Haley, who's from Calgary, she just did such a beautiful job, and she watched the film like 5 times, getting all these little details right. Like once you guys see the film and Graham keep going and like really zoom in on every little bit of what she's drawn, it's just like exactly what you see.
It was loved it.
Yeah, shout out to Geneva.
So I'm struggling remembering a little bit. I got to jump back to Black Summer just because I'm sorry to be bouncing around, but do you make it on the plane? You're in the episode The Plane. Do you make it on the plane,
Ryan? I have much love and affection for you already because we're having such a nice rapport here.
Yes.
Let me tell you this. There's something really beautiful about being on that set, because often as a young Asian woman, there's often only one space for me on any given project.
Sure.
So I don't get to work with my friends and the other women in my demographic. But on Black Summer, there are quite a few Asian women on the show. And I'm not the one in the plane.
That's right. That's not why I just couldn't remember if your character, because you are part of the main, like I know who you are in the show because you're part of the crew that's like out in the
civilian.
Yeah, exactly. You're part of that crew. Like and I just couldn't remember if you I thought I remembered, and I'm like, wait, did she make it on the plane or did she not? I just couldn't.
I don't want to spoil anything, people, but no, my attorney didn't take me to the plane.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm actually, it's less than, but I think that's a fair assessment, and of course, fucking terrible, and something hopefully we can start. I was like. No, I was literally having this conversation about the Black Little Mermaid. Is that I posted a TikTok about this a couple of days. People are worried about the source material, and I'm like, well, why do you think all source material is white? Like, what do you think? How do you think this looks going through that we have like 200 years of white source material? Like,
The
it's
source
because
material is some guy drawing on paper.
exactly,
Yeah.
Easily
but
could
but
have colored in
right,
with some, like who gives a shit?
right. But
Yeah.
there was an active, I mean, till recently, like Homicide: Life in the Streets, which was done by the same guy who did The Wire, was canceled because they only had black actors in scenes, and if there was no white representation, ABC or whoever was carrying it didn't want it. So they canceled the show for that because there was too many black characters on it. So like, no, I think that's a very fair thing to bring up. And there isn't a lot of um, uh, Asian representation, which is hilarious because a good friend of mine Ben Levy has a joke that if has made people, I don't, this isn't a religious joke, but if God has made people in an image of himself, they're probably Asian, because if you look at the population of the world, we're talking about like Asian people, and
Global
but
minority,
yeah.
guys.
Yeah.
Right. Right. So the fact that we can still only find space in that is of course
That's so funny. I had no idea that they canceled the show because it was like too black. Can you
yeah,
imagine canceling
yeah.
Full House because like the family was too white and there were so many of them under one roof? Like,
Listen, I don't always like to interject comedy stuff into conversations, but this has happened twice now in this, because this is very funny. One of the first shows that I ever did in New York was a friend of mine came out to me. He goes, "Hey, I have a question for you, and I don't want the question to be fucked up, so don't take it that way." And I was like, "Well, I'm already going to take it that way now,
Yeah.
just to bust your
Too
balls.
late.
Like, now I'm just going to do that." He goes, "Do you want to do my Asian themed show?" And I said, "Why would that question be fucked up?" And he goes, "Because I don't know if you're Asian or not." And I was like, "So you're telling me you don't know whether I'm Asian or not, which means that you're either taking the chance that I'm partially Asian, or you're saying that my face just happens to look like I might be Asian. So which one are you asking me here, Tom?" And yes, that's his name. And he goes, I'm flipping the coin. "I think you might be Asian." I was like, "We have a winner. I am half Mongolian." I was like, "However, that could have gone south." And he was just like,
yes,
"I'm so happy I was on the right side of that one." I was like, "I don't know if you were.
he's
I don't
lucky.
know if you were."
Is he Asian? Why, okay, why did he want to, Tom, now that you've had him, why did he
Yeah.
want to do an Asian show? Is he
No,
Asian?
he is Asian. And the show
Okay,
isn't, yeah, so the entire show is an Asian lineup.
that's
But
okay then. Yeah.
right,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
was kind of the funny part to me, because I was like, if I just happened to be a white dude that just kind of looked Asian, were you still going to be like, "Ah, fuck it, you're my friend, I'm going to put you on the show"? Like, where were we going with this one? He was like, "No, I never asked you, and then like now I wanted to." I was like, "Don't approach that question that way again." I was like, that was a weird way to do it, dude. But yeah, it's because I'm
Learning.
half Mongolian. So he was just like, "Oh," he was like, "I thought you might have been, but I just wanted to make sure."
It's interesting, like someone's perception of you based on the way you look and how you might feel inside, because my mom's Filipino and my dad's Korean, but no one looks at me and thinks I'm Filipino. But I grew up around a lot of Filipinos. So,
Hmm.
in a funny way, culturally, I'm actually much more in touch with my mom's Filipino side. But on the outside, I look Korean. And so I get cast as primarily East Asian people.
Sure.
And I've never been hired as Filipino because
Mm.
no one looks at me and they're like, there she is. That's
You know what Filipino actor does get booked a lot is what's his name, Lou Diamond Phillips, but for some reason he's Filipino and he is cast as Mexican all the time. It's an
All the time.
all the time. I mean, like I would say like people, like if you put a gun to most people's head and said, "Hey, is Lou Diamond Phillips Mexican?" They would be like, "Of course." And you'd
you'd
be
be like,
like,
absolutely. I die for Lou Diamond Phillips. It's a funny thing about our industry, right? I mean, you would never think to attach your photo, like your best photo, to your resume in any other industry other than acting and modeling. And that's what we signed up for. It's no complaints. It's more just being aware that that's how it is. And now everyone Jonas does Asian shows. Just
throwing it out there. It is the single time that I have ever been typecast as an Asian, and it was approached so gingerly. Like, just it was I've never had that happen. Yeah.
Okay, but speaking of which, you just to go way back, you asked me if I was turned on to horror now.
Yes.
Totally. Horror people are the nicest folks I've ever met. What is with that? And Steven has started to write a very exciting new script. He's developing a story about completely set in an old prison, like a decommissioned prison.
Oh, cool.
Because there is our province at the moment, and so we're kind of looking into maybe going there. So hopefully we'll be on this podcast again soon.
Can't wait. Can't wait. Because to speak to the horror fans are like comic book fans, horror fans, and we are we're fans first, and it's a chunk of our being that's like it kind of connects us all, and it's just kind of like an interesting thing. I mean, like I hate to just throw the term community around, but there is like a community. Like if you are sort of like relaxed and chilled by watching like plastic heads get split open, you know what I mean? Like you're honest. I mean, like it's a funny thing to say, but it's true. Like that's not everybody, and so like when we find each other, it's just kind of like a thing, and we all like to be part of it. And I think that also like people in horror are also there's a reason why there aren't like lots of action stars on podcasts or like lots of I think horror people are more accessible and things. So it's really cool part of thing, and it's a cool thing to be.
They're also very protective of the community. I feel like I've seen like they kick people like shitheads out pretty quick, like faster than in a lot of other scenes and
we are pretty quick about that.
It's kind of cool to watch. Like there's so much less like misogyny and racism in the smaller horror groups than in the smaller like Facebook group. I don't know. From what I've noticed, especially since being in a lot of those groups once the pandemic hit, and being on Facebook and social media a lot more, and then once getting out and talking to people and stuff, it's always the horror people are just excited to talk about horror.
Yeah, totally. And even us who were like, we're not sure if we're quite both feed into the genre, and even then, folks like you guys have been so lovely and accepting. And I don't know, what do you guys think? Over COVID, I found even throughout film, television, and theater, because I was also trained in theater, people have really leaned into the darkness. Sure. I don't know if it's from like life kind of quieting down and us not having to like perform for each other all the time, seeing each other in person so much, but I've been noticing so many kind of wacky, dark stories coming out of this time. And I think
that's something that we actually had a guest on the show, Jacob Aaron Estes. He did a movie called He's Watching that was filmed in his house with his children. And it was and it's terrifying and it's super fucking weird, but like in the best way. But it was, again, a thing that was birthed out of the pandemic. And when we talked to him, he was the same thing. He was like, we have nothing going on. So like, what do we do with our time? Like, what do we do with this creative energy that we have? So he made something dark. And he let his kids act like and stuff like that. So like I think the pandemic brought the darkness out of people in a sense because everybody was dealing with it at the same time in their own way.
It also gave everybody a chance to kind of step back and concentrate on their art. Like the amount of music that came out the next year was mind-boggling, and it was all insanely good, and it was from bands that had just released an album like the year before, or like a few months before. They like sat down and were like, oh, we're not touring, artists like didn't have to go to work or whatever, or couldn't go to work, like they had to just sit at home, so like they just made things, and it was during a really dark period.
And creativity,
and it reflected. But I think there was some free time there. It like gave us a lot of artists time to like really focus. So
And I mean, this is a dark time. You know what I mean? Like this,
Yeah.
it's a dark period of time. We went into the, there's a lot of unrest. I mean, like in America, I mean, it's been like so much unrest since 2016 in that vibe. And I think that everybody got real cozy at the end of Obama in this country, and there was a lot of just like people were just like doing Pilates and going kayaking and shit. And then like, I mean, nothing wrong with that, but we kind of like everybody was just chill and like, and then and then even if you're somebody who was a fan of that guy, I won't say his name, but the following, like if anybody was even like a fan of that guy, like it still ushered in an era of like sort of chaos and sort of like and sort of stoked a fire. So I think I mean I think that the things that are coming out of it now, it's like from an artistic standpoint, if you look at art as like an ambassador for the human experience, we're definitely seeing darkness, and we probably will for the time because we all did have a collective trauma, and I don't think we're all really, because we were so eager to just get back to life. I don't think any of us have really reckoned with the fact that like the world was poison, and like you can only deal with that for so long of like, I can't touch anything because I might like kill my grandmother. You know what I mean? So
Not
like,
necessarily all bad. Like everyone has so many different responses to trauma. Like some people really
sure.
tried to make light of it. Like you were talking about Bo Burnham's Inside. Like he was trying to find the levity and the lightness, and even in even in the darkness and the, I don't know how you say it, like just like the disgusting, you can find some like fun in it. Like Steven's also developing this musical, so jukebox musical with populated with miniatures and puppets about a famous necrophiliac from Florida, of course.
This sounds amazing.
Yes. So I mean, these are the kinds of beautiful gems or truffles, you could say, that are coming out of this time.
Sure.
And
There are,
you
absolutely.
can swing so many different ways with it. But you're right, like it's been quite a time. Like there's no denying that.
Oh, well, sure. But like, I mean, like we were kind of talking about earlier, and I fully agree because like, I mean, some of the best music, I mean, the best music, the best art is all contrived out of like trauma. You know what I mean? Like I have a comedian friend of mine, G Wade, he has a joke about how he hates what's happened to, his black family and his black over time. But he's like, I don't know if I could give it up if I'd have to give up gangster rap. You know what I mean? Like, because this is clearly birds from this situation. So, So like, no, we're gonna end up with a lot of great things to come because there's nothing like those true life experiences to really spark those creative juices.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think maybe to help you get ready for your career in horror now, we should hit up the Sinister Six. You ready?
Give it to me.
All right. First one's pretty easy. Freddy or Jason?
Freddy, I love his sweater.
Yes.
Love that.
Love that. That's a great reason too.
His sweater is pretty dope.
It is. It's really good. This will be great. What's the difference between thriller and horror? We kind of covered this a lot.
Oh yeah. I think thriller is something that it's just something that bubbles from the inside out. Starts from like your head and your heart and your guts. And then horror I just find so like it can be so visceral and hit you from the outside in. Like something that happens, and then thriller is maybe something that kind of simmers from within. That's my
I love it.
Great answer.
What horror movie influenced your taste the most?
Okay. Like I said, I'm not really up on this, so my references can be
problem.
I already referenced Full House for some reason, and shows you where my head's at. I loved Drag Me to Hell. I thought it was actually so scary and so funny and ridiculous. Like had jump scares. It doesn't necessarily mean that like those are the films I make or did make, but I enjoyed it so much. And you know what? When I was in junior high, sure, I watched The Ring like entirely through my fingers. It was scary. Very different.
Scary ass movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's
I need
great.
a little release. That's why Drag Me to Hell I just thought was so great.
Right.
Oh, I love that movie. If you could erase one movie from existence, what would it be? It doesn't have to be horror.
This is just personal for me. It's like we were talking about, your idea of horror is very personal. And yeah, like Freddy Krueger, like popping in my bedroom window, like would definitely be scary. But the things that really scare me are like the things that people would do to other people. And I don't know if you would count Nocturnal Animals. That's the Tom.
Oh yeah.
Oh shit. Yeah.
As a horror, but I thought it was so disturbing. The way that those women were treated in that film.
Mm-hmm.
I would never want to see it again. And I really wish I could Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, like parts of that out.
Wish you could unsee
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah, I do. Not that it was bad. It was just like personally just really
No,
affected
for
me.
sure. I hear you. Yeah. I get that.
No, that's a great answer, because I'll be honest with you. Honestly, Chantelle, most people tap out on that one. So I'm just saying,
No,
Fuck it, most people.
yeah.
Just kidding. I
Up to the
respect
plate
you.
on that one.
Are ghosts real?
When people say that they have seen a ghost, I always believe them. I do believe them. I can see it in their eyes. And as an actor and a director, my job is to look at you and be like, are you telling the truth? Like, do you have conviction? And I believe that they believe that they've experienced a ghost encounter. I never have personally, thank God. Because I think if it's like the ghosts know this too, because if one of them showed themselves to me, I would drop dead. Like I would be so scared. I think that's the only reason I haven't seen a ghost, because it would end me.
It would
I
kill
believe
you.
that they have seen a ghost.
If you saw
That's
a ghost,
really
you would
cool
if you
answer,
saw a
actually.
ghost, you would immediately become a ghost, which is why you haven't seen one yet. So like,
Yeah, that's what I mean. Or like, you know, the hair turns like white instantly. Like
Yeah. All right, and last one: Midsummer or Hereditary?
Oh, I have seen both. My God.
Awesome.
Good. I'm doing pretty well.
That's better than a lot of our guests.
Yeah.
Both. I found Hereditary really quite scary up until the end and thank goodness, because the end is so kind of ridiculous and not realistic. Like I said, like things that are real are very scary to me. The ending was so ridiculous that I'm like, fuck, thank God I'm not taking this home with me.
Okay, yeah.
Like if there's
kind
like
of saved you.
Yeah, like religious stuff, because I grew up Catholic, I find like really scary, because there's like Jesuses and crucifixes all over my parents' house. At night, I would just be like, oh my God. But and Midsummer, though I enjoyed it, I think it was so beautifully shot. And the imagery was just, it was so outlandish and so outside of something I've ever experienced that it didn't scare me to my core, because my core doesn't recognize that weird cult shit.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So Hereditary.
Love it.
I feel like Hereditary would have been scarier to a lot of people if it would have kept the same energy that it had right when the girl's head got taken off. And if it was that realistic the whole time, then it would just be like, all right, I'm fucking dead now. Like I can't. Because like me and Graham both had the similar experience when we saw that movie, to where when we saw it the first time, as soon as her head got taken off, we just shut down. Like our brain kind of just went,
after the first
what?
time I saw it.
Yeah. And then
I
I'd
watched that
rewatch
in theaters. It was like the whole theater was like, whoa! Like
yeah.
Like that. I saw it in my house with my wife, and I don't remember anything after the first time. And everybody kept saying it's the greatest. I was like, it seemed really good, so I just bought it and was like, all right, it's probably great, and it is. I've seen it multiple times since. I'm a Midsummer guy though. I don't know, just the idea of having a full horror movie almost completely in the daylight, and I love cults. I love anything to do with cults. That's always fun for me. So
learning so
my
much.
light's going crazy.
Oh.
The biggest thing that got me about Midsummer, just to like kind of put the icing on the cake of that movie for me, was the fact that it used trauma as the villain. Because like, sure, you can look at everything that happened in the movie as like the cult being the villain, or like, you know, all these different things. Really, at the end of the day, the quote unquote bad guy was the trauma that she was dealing with at the very beginning of the movie. From that to the end, like that was the thing that was haunting her the whole fucking time. So like, and that went all the way to the very end till it broke her. And then once it broke her, she was, you know, the May Queen or whatever, you know, but she was broken. At that point, she was completely gone, broken. The old her no longer existed. And it was because of the trauma response. And that was terrifying to me because in like a mental illness aspect of it, of what trauma can do, like if you don't deal with it, it can break you, you know. So when the way that he filmed the movie all in the light and everything and like took the darkness quote unquote out of it, made it that much scarier to me, because most of the time when stuff like that is dealt with, it's dealt with like behind the shadows and like things like that, where it was just like, nope, this is all lit up.
That's true. The contrast was interesting. To make something scary, full and fully lit, vibrant colors. I mean, that's saying a lot. And there was just so much imagery and symbolism. And the performances were great in both films especially by the incredible.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Florence Pugh and Toni Collette were both like top of their game in both those movies. Totally. Excellent work on The Sinister Six.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
That was awesome.
So happy. I was very nervous, guys.
Yeah, well, we judge pretty hard. No, it's all good.
And you did great. Like you legitimately did great compared to a lot of the guests. Like it's you pat yourself on the back for that one.
Yeah. Graham, what kind of recommendations you got for us this week?
Oh my gosh. Let me see. I have my big one is Harley Quinn, the animated show on HBO Max.
Oh yeah.
It's basically about Harley Quinn getting out from under the Joker's thumb, finding love and friendships, and truly becoming herself. It makes Wonder Woman and Captain Marvel look like patriarchal propaganda in comparison. Neither of those movies are that, but just Harley is so fucking unapologetic and in your face feminist and fucking just awesome. And it's fucking hysterical. They treat Batman like shit. It's awesome. It's so good. Like, I don't know if anybody else has seen it. It's one of the best cartoons I've ever seen. That's on HBO Max. And then X and Pearl. Pearl's in theaters now, and I talked about it on one of the videos, but Mia Goth's performance in that and X. Go see X and then go see Pearl in theaters. What Mia Goth and Ty West are doing right now for horror is so much fun and so exciting. And there's a third one coming, so it's a trilogy. Maxine takes place, and I'm just very excited. So yeah, X and Pearl, go see those, and Harley Quinn.
Hell yeah! Do you have any music on this one?
Oh sure, Starcrawler's new record, She Said, is the catchiest thing I've ever heard. It's like glam punk with like a '90s rock, like pop sensibility. And it's fucking amazing. She Said is like the catchiest thing. I can't stop listening to it. So Starcrawler's new record. Yeah, that's it.
Hell yeah.
Yep.
I will recommend a couple of different things, interesting things here. I'm going to go a little bit off of the beaten path of recommending what I usually do, and I'm going to recommend two bands that are on tour right now. Go see Wednesday 13, because Wednesday 13 was supposed to be opening for Ministry in Europe, and that tour got canceled. So Wednesday 13 is only doing the US tour. So jump on that. And then also Slaughter to Prevail is also doing their US tour right now. And that I think it's starting at the end of this month. So go out and do that because those are both gonna be wild. As far as movies go, like Graham touched on it, Pearl is fantastic. Um, I want to double up on that recommendation because I want to say something about that movie. Um, X was a great movie. I loved X. And I think, Graham, you agree with that. It was a fantastic
It's
movie.
still my favorite horror film of the year.
Right.
Favorite film of the year. Yeah.
So the thing with Pearl is that it showcases Mia Goth's acting ability in a way that I've never seen a debut like leading role ever do. So like Mia Goth has a monologue in that movie that should win Oscars.
It's
Like
unreal.
yeah, absolutely no bullshit. Like Oscars don't occur for horror films, and her monologue alone should get her an Oscar on top of the rest of the movie. But like if you want to see somebody really coming into their own as an actress, go see Pearl because
Yeah.
she like it's a character study of of Pearl, but also just it is such a showcase of how good of an actress Mia Goth truly is. So I actually think that X is a better movie all around, but I think that just that performance alone deserves all the money. Like go see like just pack the theaters for that movie because it's a masterclass in acting. So yeah, I definitely do want to double up on that recommendation. As far as music goes, I don't have a lot actually on this one. Just
You did
listen.
2 tours.
What's that?
You
Yeah,
did
but I
two
mean nothing to
tours.
stream. I don't have anything for streaming on this one. And then also just keep supporting Shutter because they keep on coming out with amazing stuff every month. So
True.
yeah, Ryan, what do you got?
I've been watching Bones.
Really?
Yeah, and I like for some reason I'm just a junkie for terrible like procedural garbage. I just like it just goes
Oh, that Bones.
that Bones. It's like well, I'm a Buffy guy, so I'm a Boreanaz guy, and I would love some sort of like I wish there was a crossover episode, where it turns out
He's a vampire.
Saley Booth is actually a vampire. I
Me
don't
and
know.
Ryan have a weird Boreanaz beef. Like we always have that because I'm so not a Boreanaz person.
I'm a Boreanaz dude till the end. And so I've been watching Bones, and it's not great, but it's entertaining enough to keep you sort of like focused. And I don't know. It's a great show. Sometimes you just need like a little fluff. I've been watching She-Hulk.
Yeah.
And people hate it, and
It's so good.
It's so good, and it's so
fantastic.
fun. It's so ridiculously great,
Yeah.
and people
So good.
people hate it, and the more I watch it, the more I like it, and I just kind of like that it is what it is, and it's just kind of. Maybe it's because I was a reader of comic books, and so like I hear people like, well, they depowered Hulk because he like hit her with a jeep, and like, and I'm like, dude, like if you read comic books, like you would know that
None of these are concerns.
everything is a plot device, and none of it really kind of matters. And She-Hulk was always a really great comic book character for the reasons that they're showing in the show, because she was kind of a real person and this and that. And I also think that there's always this weird like extra hate for female, it's just like a female fronted show. It's just going to get this extra layer of hate, and particularly if it's not just geared towards like male gaze and male things. So if it's about her and her life and doing those sorts of things, it's going to piss off the fanboys out there. But I am here for Black Mermaids, for She-Hulks, for all that stuff, and I will surf the hater tears right to the end. Chantelle, what do you got for us?
Real quick, I just want to say something real quick. I have a question. I just want to give a sort of a real quick shout out to my mom. She's a big fan of Murdoch Mysteries, which I know Chantelle was on. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that real quick. But yeah, sorry.
Hey, Mama. Oh, that's awesome. Watches that episode.
She said she saw it, and she said she's going to go back and watch it again. Actually,
yeah,
that's adorable. That's really cute. It's just so funny to like talk about like a Sherlock Holmesy type Canadian procedural set in the early 1900s, and in the same breath as
yeah.
I have to see. I need to see. Thanks for your recommendations, guys. I like was writing some of those things down as you were talking.
Awesome.
Here's what I'm into right now. TIFF just happened here in Toronto, and I caught a couple films. Steven Spielberg's new personal, kind of like semi-autobiographical. It's called The Fablemans. I don't think it comes out for quite a while, but it was really good. It was like a 9.5 out of 10 about him.
Oh, cool. Very cool.
Starting to become a filmmaker as a teen in the 70s and whatever. It was great. But the real star was this film in Vancouver about a Korean Canadian family, and it's called Rice Boy Sleeps. And it killed me. I watched it because we were trying to maybe chat with like their distributor, and the film itself was it just wrecked me. Like as a Korean Canadian myself and the daughter of an immigrant, it was unbelievable. It was like, if I were to compare The Fablemans to like a lovely dress off the rack that looks good and fits me really well, fantastic. But Rice Boy Sleeps was like a tailored gown. Like it fit me so well. It was made for me as an audience member, and it wrecked me. It was so beautiful, and I'm just really, really happy that I got to see it, and I can't wait to see it again, and I can't wait to show my whole family. And it's for everybody. Like please watch Rice Boy Sleeps. He was the first time teacher, and he killed it. Like he really, really killed it.
Cool.
Steven, our director, my co-director and the writer, he has a novel. He's a published author, you guys. So his first novel was out quite a few years ago. He's got quite a few awesome manuscripts that are going out too. It's called Orest and August, Orest and August, like month. Great book. Check that out.
Okay.
Awesome.
I've been really into soap ASMR. Are you familiar?
Oh yes.
No.
I love soap ASMR.
Dude, soap ASMR is actually awesome.
Yeah, it's like when they're cutting the soap and you're just like, oh, this is like, how is this so gratifying?
It's the best thing ever. So before I go to bed, I'm just watching all this like soap ASMR.
Chantelle, have you ever done it with really good headphones on? Like, have you ever like seriously?
No.
Yeah, take some good headphones, put them on, and then put that video on, and it is such a wildly different experience, because it's already awesome when you just like listen to it on your phone or whatever, but when you have good headphones on and you do it, it's such a different experience. Yeah.
I will get good headphones. My headphones are all crappy.
And I will one up the soap ASMR and add, and you're going to think this is crazy, but if you find like donkey hoof shortening videos on TikTok, like when they're clipping like the hoofs, it is the most relaxing I don't know why. Everybody in the comments is like, why is this so relaxing? Why? There is a TikTok account that is literally just a guy, and he trims the hooves off of these, and it's all you can see is his hands and the tool, and they're trimming the hooves off of these they're donkeys and horses and things like that. And I know that sounds crazy, but like, why are everybody in the thing is like, why is this the most relaxing thing I have ever watched? Like, it's just something about like when he's done cleaning the hoof, you're just like, this is incredible. And I have no idea why. So like, no, but I've watched soap ASMR since they came out, and I'm all about it. So you're in good. So that's why I give
hoof trimming.
Donkey hoof trimming.
I'm going to take a BuzzFeed quiz that's like, are you a Boreanaz guy or girl? I never thought I'd hear that term or that like qualifier for a person.
Yeah.
I love it.
Oh, yeah. Ryan and I are big Buffy fans. So
I feel like, I feel like I was probably a Boreanaz guy until he starred in The Crow 4. And then I was like, I can't do it anymore. Like, I'm sorry.
Listen, somebody needed to do it, and and if somebody had to be Crow 4, it could be Boreanaz.
Yeah, why not?
Well, that is excellent. Thank you so much, Chantelle,
So much.
for
Thank
joining
you
us,
guys. That's so much fun.
and we really appreciate you. And then yeah, please come back on with any with new projects, with new things, and
Yeah.
let us know. And yeah, this has been a lot of
Stay
fun.
tuned for the necrophiliac puppet musical.
Yes,
Okay,
that sounds so amazing.
That sounds
Necrophiliac
based on a
puppet
true
musical.
story. This
This just gets better.
Yeah.
You're literally adding just more qualifiers to why we absolutely want to see this.
Yeah,
immediately.
exactly.
Tell your friends.
And
Yes.
a big shout out to all our listeners. Another great week. We've had some great episodes here. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Thanks globally. We let's see where we're at. Drum roll, please. I had looked yesterday, but it kind of changed a couple days. But so United Kingdom still number one. Canada number 3. New Zealand way ahead of Australia now. Australia, what's going on? Germany, Sweden, Mexico, and the Netherlands on the board. So, this is the time to show you're like the only time nationalism is good is when you're trying to get your buddies to listen to our podcast. So, in that case, I will support nationalism. But yeah, so like the World Cup and getting people to listen to our podcast. That's the times I get it. But anyways, thanks for tuning in. We do have a Patreon. Go to AGHP 666 at patreon.com. We have a link tree that has all our stuff. We have merchandise. We have all that sort of stuff. Graham, can you give us a shout out to the Army of the Goddamned, please?
We got Jason Daniels, Kristen Pearl, Ashley Ketchum, Chris Fortune, Alan Graham, Jake Jolly, Ron Knoblich, Drew Muldowney, and Stephanie Gurley, the coolest people on earth. Besides Chantelle.
So thanks everybody for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. And hey, if you're going through some tough times and you need an ear, reach out to us on social media, and we'll be there. We all do this stuff together. So thanks everybody for being you, and please go start some fires and break some glass. Thank you.